Part 7. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 61. As they turned around to face each other, the atmosphere suddenly became weird. Kurosawa Hikaru felt a little embarrassed and didn't know what to say. The fundamental reason is that being face to face makes people a little embarrassed. They don't know how to react, and they don't know where to put their arms. And letting the opposite sex touch you, even on your back, is a very exciting and rare thing. Gilug. Just when he felt embarrassed, Ichi-no's Yuki suddenly swallowed. Even on a noisy beach, the sound is very noticeable. Could it be that she is a carnivorous person? This reaction of swallowing saliva was something Kurosawa Hikaru didn't expect, and he couldn't help but be surprised. Thinking back carefully, during the first date, Xiao Yuki had the suspicion and possibility that she deliberately wanted to open a room with him. However, Ichi-no's Yuki didn't notice the side of the pants. As he turned around, his eyes were directly attracted to the abdominal muscles and chest muscles. So sexy, although this was not the first time she saw her abdominal muscles, the thought that she could take advantage of applying sunscreen to touch those abdominal muscles was extremely exciting. At this moment, she came back to her senses and subconsciously glanced at Brother's face, trying to see if he had noticed her expression. But it was better not to look at it. When she looked at it, she found that Brother Guang turned his head to the side in embarrassment and shyness, as if he did not dare to look at her. This reaction is so cute and the contrast is so strong. Because in her impression, Brother Guang is already a very mature adult. Mature, intellectual, calm, knowledgeable, polite and decent, and even more mysterious and gentle, as if he can face any situation calmly. But now, with such an expression, it really makes people unable to control themselves. With the mood to do bad things and be a hooligan, she acted decisively. Wow! Pressing his hands on Kurosawa Hikaru's six-pack abs, Ichi-no's Yuki felt the touch was extremely wonderful. In fact, in order to be a graphic model, she works out specifically on weekdays. Her small waist has a mermaid line, and she has seen a lot of abdominal muscles in the gym. But it was her first time to actually touch a man's abdominal muscles, which was really embarrassing. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little embarrassed about this, holding his breath and not daring to speak out. Although she was shy, but more because of the feeling of her heartbeat, Xiao Yuki gritted her teeth, squeezed out some more sunscreen, and completely coated her legs. Call. When it was over, both of them were relieved, as if they reacted in the same way. To retaliate in kind, Yuki Ichi-no's applied sunscreen to Kurosawa, almost all over his body. That is to say, she is relatively shy and has a reserved restraint, not daring to put her hand between the legs of her trousers. Let's play again later. Sunscreen needs to wait 10 to 20 minutes for the best effect, Kurosawa said while lying on the sun lounger. Brother Guang. Ichi-no's Yuki sat sideways on another sun lounger. After kicking her long legs on the sand for a while, she mustered up the courage to shout. Huh! Kurosawa Hikaru tried not to look at her, trying to calm down as quickly as possible. How old are you? You're 20 years old, didn't I tell you? That's not what I asked. Kurosawa Hikaru was stunned when he heard this, and then looked at her in shock. How big is it? There are only two answers. For girls, it's either age or bust size. For boys, it's either age or. On our first date, Lan asked me how old you were. I said 20 years old. She said that was not what she was asking, this was to avoid revealing her secret. Looking at him with astonished eyes, Ichi-no's Yuki looked away with a guilty conscience, and gave an explanation full of loopholes. I don't know either. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little embarrassed, it was really hard to answer this kind of question. That's it. Yuki Ichi-no's felt a little regretful. She said it was to avoid revealing her secret, but actually she was curious and wanted to know. After all, her relationship with brother Guang is still moving forward step by step, unlike Aoi and Lan, who are crazy, hitting home runs and being honest with each other after just one day of knowing each other. Lan told you how old her boyfriend is. Hikaru Kurosawa couldn't help but ask when talking about her friends. Although she knows that her hot girlfriend is not an ordinary person who knows how to play, isn't this too open? I didn't ask, so she didn't say it, but she will ask. Just tell her it's a secret. Although Yuki Ichino's was a little regretful that she couldn't ask, she didn't really care. Since you can't find out, wait until you see it with your own eyes. How many times has brother Guang been to the beach? It's quite rare. I've been here a few times with my family before. What about coming with girls of the same age? It happened once. Dating. Ichino's Yuki was a little bit dissatisfied. Originally, she was thinking about whether she might be Hikaru's first experience. It's a high school study trip, and all the classmates from the same class will go together. Seeing her jealous expression, Kurosawa Hikaru raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. So is this your first date with a girl at the beach? Although he feinted a shot, Ichino's Yuki was still very happy and asked again. Yes, with cute little Yuki. Kurosawa Hikaru found that she seemed to care about this first time, so he stopped teasing her. Hee, this is also my first time to date a boy at the beach. Yuki Ichino's laughed when she heard this, not hiding her happiness. Seeing her sunny and cheerful smile, Kurosawa Hikaru was in a good mood. One of Yuki's advantages is that she loves to laugh, has a cheerful personality, and is full of youth. Unlike adults, who hide their true feelings and feelings in their hearts, as a JK and a hot girl, Yuki is very talkative. Speaking of which, I encountered a little problem with my part-time job yesterday. Waiting for the sunscreen to take effect, Yuki Ichino's feet stirred in the sand, and suddenly remembered something and said, "What's the problem?" "It's the strawberry mark." The agent said that fortunately this time we didn't shoot off shoulder dresses and suspender skirts. It can't happen again next time. You still have an agent? Isn't it a part-time job? Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it, without any misunderstanding or overthinking, and asked. If someone else told him about this, he would think that this was a request from the other party to stop growing strawberries in advance, but if it was Yuki, it might not be the case. She is not cunning. It is a part-time job, but not a temporary job. It is a more formal contract. There is such a thing, high school students sign contracts. Do you know how to read contracts? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. I showed it to my dad. He said there is no problem, and the benefits are very good. Not only the salary is generous, but also provides a gym and fitness coaches to help me maintain my body shape. So you have such a good figure and a vest line. Kurosawa Hikaru felt relieved when he learned that her father was checking on her, and couldn't help but take a look at her belly. I have to say that Yuki's waist is really beautiful, slender, and without fat. Whether she is wearing a belly-bearing outfit or a swim skirt like today, it is very eye-catching. Just now when I was helping her apply sunscreen in the locker room, it felt very good, and the feeling of holding it in one hand made people love it. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 62. After waiting for about 20 minutes, they set off. However, before heading to the sea, they first went to a shop outside the beach and rented a life buoy. Brother Guang, I don't need a life preserver. I can swim very fast in school, and there is also swimming in the gym classes. Yuki Ichino's looked at the life preserver in his hand and shook his head. Although she was forced by circumstances and chose to become a hottie, she essentially loves beauty. Especially after becoming a graphic model, she became more concerned about her own image. For safety. Then you don't have to. I have learned to swim professionally. Although it is an entry level, there will be no problems. Okay, seeing his tough attitude, Ichi-no's Yuki could only nod obediently. This was Brother Guang's good intention to care about her. Although wearing a life buoy wasn't pretty, there was nothing he could do about it. Pulling it off from her head, the pink polka dot life buoy wrapped around her waist, covering her small waist and making her feel several years younger. Originally, when she was with Brother Guang, she would be several years younger, and with this life preserver, she would be even more childish. It's so cute. Although she felt a little depressed, Kurosawa Hikaru felt good when he saw her put on the life preserver. Because Xiao Yuki is good at dressing up and applying makeup, and with her wavy blonde hair, she looks more mature than her peers. Putting on a life preserver makes her look even more like a JK. Really? Ichi-no's Yuki still felt that he was not good looking enough and suspected that he was lying to herself. Really, it looks very cute. Kurosawa nodded and confirmed. Although Xiao Yuki can't read, is a poor student, has no talent, is not old, and has not much knowledge, her advantage is that she is very beautiful, and she must be a school beauty in her school. Let's go. Seeing that his attitude was very sincere, Ichi-no's Yuki breathed a sigh of relief, felt secretly happy in his heart, and said immediately. After just a few steps, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly felt very comfortable. Looking back, he saw Xiao Yuki holding his left arm, and with the other hand holding the life preserver that might fall off at any time because of his good figure. Noticing her initiative to cross her arms, Kurosawa Hikaru smiled at her without rejecting him. Officially walking towards the sea, they also became the focus of the audience along the way. Because this is a Sifa's paradise, it's mostly men. Although a hot girl like Xiao Yuki is wearing a life preserver, her long and straight legs, plump and round, delicate and beautiful face, and beautiful and fashionable little details make her look very feminine. As she approached the sea, she immediately became the focus of the audience. For a time, countless men couldn't help but look at Xiao Yuki. After admiring her beauty and appearance, many people looked at Kurosawa Hikaru with envy and jealousy. In addition, there are also many girls and women looking at Kurosawa Hikaru. After all, he has a good figure, is also handsome, and has an outstanding temperament. Walking on the soft sand, they finally came to the seaside. Let's swim first, wait until the afternoon, and take you to do something fun. Stepping on the wet and sticky sand, Kurosawa glanced down and said. Little Yuki's feet were painted with bright red nail polish. Although they were stained with a lot of sand, the contrast between the bright red and the white skin made her feet look sexy and beautiful. What's so fun? Ichi-no's Yuki didn't notice his gaze, but felt curious. When you come to the beach, isn't it just swimming? In this regard, Kurosawa Hikaru said nothing and just looked at the people holding surfboards on the sea. The advantage of Onjuku Beach is that it has a steady stream of waves, making it a good place for natural surfing. Surfing? Brother Guang, didn't you say that you rarely come to the beach? Can you still surf? Ichi-no's Yuki followed his gaze and felt strange when he saw the surfers. If swimming at the beach is the most basic way to play, then surfing is undoubtedly an advanced version. Learned a little bit. Let me guess, entry level again. Before he could say anything more, Xiao Yuki tied up her manicured fingers and smiled. Ha ha ha. Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but laugh when he saw that she was able to steal lines. They are all basics. Brother Guang, what other basics do you have? Listening to his hearty smile, Ichi-no's Yuki realized that he had guessed correctly, and immediately became curious. Singing, swimming, and surfing are all beginners, so what does it take to not be considered a beginner? Studying is also an introduction. Kurosawa Hikaru thought about the system's rating standards and said. As a reborn person, he has been a master of reading since he was a child. He originally thought that he was very good at reading, but in front of the system, he found that he seemed not very good at it. You are just starting to get into Dongda University, so what are you good at? Arrow, this is his only proficiency level skill. More powerful than entry level. This should be. I'd like to see it if I have a chance. Sure. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded. Even if there was no date mission, he still enjoyed dating Xiaoyuki. In this world, as long as you have someone by your side, no matter what you do, you will never be bored. Let's go. After chatting for a while, Kurosawa Hikaru took his arm out of her arms and held her hand. Their palms were clasped together, although their fingers were not intertwined, but this was their first handshake. The steady and powerful broad and solid hands hold the soft and boneless slender jade hand. The two people seemed to be closely connected at this moment. Ichi-no's Yuki only felt her heart pounding, but she was not shy, but nodded happily. Entering the sea, although the sun was shining brightly and the climate was hot, after just a few steps, the cold sea water cooled down the body, and a cool feeling spread all over the body. It's so cold. The lower half of her body was submerged in the sea water, and Yuki Ichi-no's couldn't help but act coquettishly. Although this was not her first time at the beach, being with Brother Guang allowed her to take off all pretenses and defenses, just like a pampered girl who could act as coquettishly as she wanted. It won't be cold in a while. Kurosawa Hikaru smiled, took her hand, and took her to the sea. The two of them walked out together, and soon their feet were off the ground. Putting his arms on the lifebuoy, Yuki Ichi-no's was floating on the sea, very relaxed. As for Kurosawa Hikaru, although he still shook hands with her, he could still swim comfortably. Although it was an introductory experience card for swimming, the moment he touched the water, he felt like he had transformed into a fish and could swim freely in the sea. This is the entry standard for system evaluation, comparable to professional level. When you come to the sea and your body is submerged in water, this feeling is different from that on the ground. It is very special, making you relaxed and happy. Brother Guang, if you shake my hand, will you be unable to swim? Pushed away by the waves, Yuki Ichi-no's felt a little uneasy when she saw that the shore was getting farther and farther away. No, do you want me to let you go? Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head and asked immediately. Ichi-no's Yuki didn't speak, but shook his head slightly, and clasped his palms under the sea water tightly to answer. If she could, she wanted to hold Brother Guang's hand like this and never let go. Although they are on the vast and boundless sea, the two people holding hands in the sea are like a lonely boat in nature. This is not a closed space, but it still allows people to open their hearts and feel naturally. Maybe it's because they haven't known each other for a long time and don't know enough about him, but in her mind, Brother Guang is definitely the person she has met in her life and she wants to be with him the most. Please recommend and vote for me. In addition, I have a bloody lesson to warn you, that is, never eat Wallace. I was supposed to update at 3 o'clock as usual today, but I got diarrhea and my butt hurts. Thank you very much to Xiao Zio for the 50,000 starting coins and H527 for the 3,000 starting coins. I will remember these and update them when they are released. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 63. There is a big difference between the sea and the swimming pool. The most fundamental difference is that the sea is uncontrollable, and rip currents may occur. A wave can directly carry people dozens of meters away. However, this kind of wandering does not happen all the time. Even if it does appear, it's usually not that fast. I want to swim too. About 10 meters offshore, Yuki Ichi-no's tried swimming with the lifebuoy on for a while, but it always felt like it wasn't satisfying enough. Okay, but wait a moment. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was swimming with the lifebuoy just now, but it was not swimming smoothly. He thought about it and nodded. Oh. Ichi-no's Yuki didn't know what to wait for, but nodded anyway. The next moment, Kurosawa Hikaru let go of his hand and plunged into the water. The water at Onjuku Beach was very clear. Kurosawa Hikaru opened his eyes underwater and immediately reached out to take the lifebuoy rope in his hand. Then, he circled Ichino's Yuki's small waist twice and tied a knot. No problem. When he surfaced again, Kurosawa gave her an okay gesture. The rope of the lifebuoy was tied around her waist. This way, even if something went wrong, she would be able to hold her and give herself enough time to save her. In a place like the sea, you can't joke, you must pay attention to safety. Then shall I take off the life preserver? Seeing his actions, Ichino's Yuki felt happy, and then said. Just now on the coast, the reason why she thought the lifebuoy was childish was because there was a safety rope. When others saw it, she always felt like she had become a child. As a reminder, her hands were no longer resting on the lifebuoy, but lifted up. She had a good figure, slender. As she raised her hand, she instantly fell from the middle of the lifebuoy and sank into the water. But the next moment, she surfaced. Your appearance looks like Sadako. As she disappeared and appeared, Kurosawa suddenly smiled. Because Xiao Yuki's beautifully styled hairstyle was completely wet with water at this moment and looked a little messy. Although she had just entered the sea, her hair was half wet because of the lifebuoy. Well. Yuki Ichino's noticed his laughter and noticed that his hair had become messy. He was a little unhappy and pushed the hair back from his face with his hands. Don't worry, it's the first time I've seen your hair in such a mess, and I couldn't help it. Seeing her cheeks bulging, like a squirrel stuffed with food, Kurosawa reached out and pinched her cheeks, then comforted her. Your hair was messed up just now, and I didn't even laugh. Yuki Ichino's was still a little unhappy. When she saw Brother Guang's hair was wet, she thought he was handsome. But when Brother Guang saw her hair was wet, he was smiling. What's more, the hairstyle looks like Sadako's, which is too much. Do not be angry. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't expect that she cared so much. He reached out and touched her head. His fingers got into her hair and helped her comb it out, very patiently. During the first period of time when boys and girls get to know each other, they are the most patient. Even the most impatient boys will do this, even if they are doing boring things together, they will accompany her. I'm not angry. Ichino's Yuki was soothed by his gentle movements and shook her head. In fact, she was a little depressed and aggrieved, because in her eyes, Kurosawa Hikaru was handsome no matter what she looked like, but Hikari said she looked like Sadako. Even if it's just the hairstyle, even if it's similar, she still feels depressed. After another moment of comfort, and after Kurosawa Hikaru promised that he would never say such words in the future, Xiao Yuki's mood was restored. In view of this matter, Kurosawa Hikaru learned a truth. Even if it is a joke, you can never say that a girl looks like something ugly, only something cute. Immediately afterwards, they began to swim in the sea. The sea is vast and boundless after leaving the shore. It is not like a swimming pool where you can swim at fixed points, so they float aimlessly and leisurely in the sea. Sometimes outward, sometimes left and right, but not too far from the shore. After playing for about 10 minutes, Kurosawa Hikaru found that she was quite good at swimming. Her movements were very standard and her body was stable. She had obviously learned well in swimming lessons. Call. The accident did not happen, but Yuki Ichino's breathing began to become rapid. What's wrong? Kurosawa Hikaru had been observing her situation to avoid danger, and swam to her side as soon as possible. Swimming in the sea is so tiring. Ichino's Yuki was panting and her body was a little weak. Unlike in the swimming pool, where you can relax and float when you are tired, in the sea you have to fight against the waves all the time. Moreover, there are many waves in the sea area, and they are even more intense. Hitting her from time to time will cause her to hold her breath involuntarily. In the long run, her breathing will not be stable. At this moment, she suddenly felt a pair of arms hugging her under the water. Looking up, he saw Kurosawa Hikaru coming in front of him. "Let's take a rest first," Kurosawa Hikaru said while holding her to prevent her from being carried away by the waves. After noticing this action, Ichino's Yuki, who was already tired, felt very comfortable and relaxed. She hugged him with both hands and rested her head on his shoulder. She was already very tired and had little strength left, so she didn't say anything. She was very satisfied with this swim in the sea, just because she was able to take the opportunity to swim until she was tired and be hugged by Guangji and hug Guangji. Unlike the time when they checked into the hotel, Guangji took the initiative to hug her this time. The two of them were in the sea, their bodies pressed together. Although she was very relaxed, it was not that simple for Kurosawa Hikaru. "Is it so difficult to hug in the sea for a minute?" Kurosawa Hikaru was secretly shocked, and his legs were always wandering to avoid being carried away by the waves. He thought that this mission goal was a technical job, and he had to find a way to design it and find a reasonable time to hug Xiaoyuki. But he didn't expect that this was purely a physical job. Although in the sea, because of the buoyancy, both of them were very light. But holding someone with both hands, the arms could not be used, which restricted swimming. After hugging for a while, a line of words appeared in front of Kurosawa Hikaru. "Mission goal 1 minute hug in the sea has been achieved." Date: mission, seaside trip with Ichino's Yuki. 4 mission goals have been achieved, mission completed, rewards: entry-level swimming, entry-level surfing, permanent. Is it done? Seeing the mission completed, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little uncomfortable because it was too simple. Except for applying sunscreen, there was no difficulty at all. At this moment, he suddenly felt something surging from deep in his body, that was strength. Not only that, but also knowledge, theory and experience, also poured into his mind. In addition to swimming skills, there is even an understanding of the waves. Anyway, there are many things that I didn't know before. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 64. Different from experience cards, the rewards brought by each permanent reward are not as simple as that, but include both physical and mental levels. For example, when swimming and being in the sea, Kurosawa Hikaru felt as if his 2 meridians of Ren and Du had been opened. With the emergence of theory and experience, he seemed to have mastered various swimming skills and synchronized swimming in an instant. The next moment, he was swimming with little Yuki in his arms, and it was no longer so strenuous. "Brother Guang, are you tired?" After hugging him like this for a while, Yuki Ichino's calmed down a little and became aware of the situation. She felt very tired even when she was swimming alone, and Brother Guang still had to hold her. "Won't?" Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head. It was indeed tiring just now, but after the mission is completed and the permanent reward is obtained, it will be another matter. "Why don't we go back to the shore to rest for a while?" Ichino's Yuki thought that he was trying to show off his strength, so he suggested. "Good." Kurosawa Hikaru originally wanted to refuse, but when he saw that her breathing had not returned to steady and she was still panting, he nodded. Having settled the matter, they began to swim back. Not long after, they arrived at the shore and set foot on the earth again. As they came ashore, their appearance was somewhat eye-catching. The fundamental reason is that these two people are very good looking. Other than that, they are in great shape. Kurosawa Hikaru has a tall and slender figure, with natural muscles, and looks very powerful. Among so many boys at the beach, he stands out. As for Ichino's Yuki's figure, it goes without saying that it is not unreasonable to be selected as a graphic model. She can look down on most of the girls who came to the beach this time. Kurosawa pushed his hair with both hands and pushed back the wet hair. Ichino's Yuki shook her hair, then brushed her long golden hair with her hands to filter out the sea water. The two people didn't speak, just walked forward, and finally reached the sun umbrella. Call. After untying the safety rope of the lifebuoy, Yuki Ichinose sat down on the chair and lay down. With one leg bent, those long legs are very eye-catching. Her body proportions are great. I'm going to buy 2 bottles of water. Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at her beautiful legs and found that she was quite tired, so he smiled. I'll go with you. Ichinose Yuki immediately wanted to get up. Be right back. Kurosawa shook his head, pressed her shoulders, and asked her to lie down again. After that, he walked towards the shops on the edge of the beach. Oops. As he set off, Ichinose Yuki saw several girls moving at the same time. He couldn't help but slap his forehead, as he had expected it. There is no doubt that the purpose of these women is Brother Guang, who wants to take advantage of her. As a hot girl, she knows a lot about girls as a group. Because of the difference in gender, girls can seduce boys by virtue of their proud mind, good figure, good face, or even a nice voice. In contrast, it is not so easy for boys to seduce girls, either they must be versatile and rich, or they must be handsome. 2 bottles of room temperature mineral water. Kurosawa Hikaru came to the store, mentioned it to the clerk, and took the phone off his neck. 1,000 yen. The clerk brought 2 bottles of mineral water and said, "It's so expensive." When Kurosawa heard the price, he raised his eyebrows. 1,000 yen can buy 2 bowls of ramen, and even in Tokyo, you can buy 7 bottles of mineral water. At this moment, a 1,000 yuan bill was suddenly placed on the counter and pushed to the clerk. I'll pay for it for him. He saw a tall, straight black lady with a somewhat pretty appearance and a sexy figure, coming to his side. Handsome guy, do you have a chance to get to know each other? We have 2 good sisters over there who would like to get to know you. There was also a hot and plump blonde sister who came to the other side of Kurosawa Hikari and directly put his arms in her arms, and the 2 people directly surrounded him. As she spoke, she gestured to 2 sisters with pretty good looks in the distance. The 2 people who came to chat were the better-looking people in the group. We want to find someone to help apply sunscreen. Following Kurosawa's gaze, the beauty who paid the bill said. We also drink and play guessing games and wild ball boxing together. The hot beauty holding Kurosawa Hikaru's arm stood on tiptoes and whispered in a seductive voice. The destructive power of these words is immeasurable. An ordinary man simply cannot refuse, playing with 4 mature and sexy big sisters, wandering among the flowers. I'm sorry, sisters, I have company this time. Let's have a drink together next time we have a chance. Thank you 2 sisters for paying the bill. However, Kurosawa shook his head, took his arm out of her arms, took the water on the table, and smiled. There are 4 sisters, and they all like you. If you miss this time, you may regret it for the rest of your life. After hearing these 2 calls from sister, the sexy and hot blonde beauty was so excited that she couldn't hold back anymore and directly revealed her trump card. Add your contact information, there's really nothing you can do this time. Seeing that they were unwilling to give up, even showing such a trump card, Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a moment, took the phone, turned around and whispered. If he just turned around and left, it would be too hurtful, so he should give the 2 sisters a way out. No matter what, they paid for you, even though it was only 1,000 yen. Add me. The hot blonde sister was also happy to see that he was attracted to her, and immediately took out her phone to add him as a friend. Remember to contact me next time. After successfully adding friends, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at the faces of the 2 sisters, whispered, and left with the mineral water. This brother is so handsome. I want to play rock paper scissors with him until dawn. The 2 beauties who stayed in place looked at Kurosawa Hikaru's back and were eager to move, and began to look forward to the next meeting. Not long after, Kurosawa Hikaru returned to the parasol, unscrewed the cap of the mineral water and handed it to Xiaoyuki. Brother Hikaru, What did they say to you? After taking the mineral water, Itchy Nose Yuki drank a sip to quench her thirst, and couldn't help but say. They said there were 4 of them and wanted to invite me to play with them. Then what? Hearing this, Yuki Itchy Nose pretended not to react, but she was surprised in her heart. With 4 girls together, no wonder the group dared to approach her even though they knew she was Guang's female companion. As a homosexual, she knew very well that if girls threw aside their reserve, they would be even crazier and more terrifying than boys. I refused. It's more fun to be with Yuki. Hee hee. Yuki Itchy Nose was very happy to hear this. How were you when I went to buy water just now? Did anything happen? Kurosawa Hikaru saw her sunny and bright smile, and also smiled, and then asked. No, seeing your muscles, who would dare to tease you? Yuki Itchy Nose spread her hands and glanced at the men around her. This time was rare. Although the time was short, no man came to approach her. 2 more chapters are here, please recommend and monthly tickets, and follow up. In addition, if you feel that there is something wrong with the novel, or if something is missing or it seems incomplete, please leave a comment to remind me. Sometimes the website will automatically delete some descriptions and texts, but it will not be blocked. I don't know if I haven't been notified. And thank you to a book friend for 3,000 Kitty coins. No name, only numbers. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 65. After replenishing their water, Kurosawa Hikaru and Itchy Nose Yuki went into the sea to play for a while. Not just swimming, but also playing in the water at the beach. They didn't stop until after 12 noon. The 2 of them sat down at the sea house just outside the beach. They didn't need to change their clothes and just ordered something to eat. Swimming in the sea is so tiring. Yuki Itchy Nose was lying on the table like a puddle of mud, feeling exhausted. It's not that she has never been to the beach before, but she used to have a more relaxed time when she came alone or with her family. I'm a little tired, but I had a lot of fun swimming. Kurosawa Hikaru was still energetic. Yamamoto also said that you were too weak and wanted to take you to the gym. If he knew that you were so strong, I don't know what his expression would be. Itchy Nose Yuki sat up and couldn't help but sigh when she saw that he didn't look tired at all, holding his cheek with one hand. Ha ha ha. Brother Guang is so strong, why do you have hypoglycemia? Hypoglycemia does not mean weakness, it can also happen if you consume too little sugar. Kurosawa thought for a while, and since he lied, he could only continue. The appearance of one lie will be followed by countless lies. Having said that, this is not a malicious lie, and he said it without any psychological burden. You rarely eat sweets. I didn't really like eating it before, but now I have to eat it. By the way, this is for you. When this topic was brought up, Itchy Nose Yuki remembered something, reached out and took out something from her swimming skirt and put it on the table. Lollipop. Bought it yesterday. Have you always kept it with you? Isn't this because I'm afraid you'll be dizzy due to hypoglycemia? Itchy Nose Yuki nodded and did not deny it. She thought yesterday that she was going to the beach today, which would probably consume a lot of energy, so she made a special trip to buy some candies. Thank you. Kurosawa Hikaru was not polite, took it, opened the wrapping paper, stuffed it into his mouth and started eating. Even if you don't have hypoglycemia, it's still a good thing to eat some sugar from time to time. For humans, consuming sugar can make the brain think faster and make them feel happy. Not long after, the store brought out 2 bowls of fried noodles. I'm gonna start now. Holding chopsticks, the 2 of them did the neon custom before eating. As they spoke together, the 2 looked at each other and smiled, and then started eating. The advantage of eating together is that you won't be alone. After eating like this for a while, Yuki Ichino's cell phone suddenly rang a ringtone, which was the tune of a little love song. There's a phone call. Yuki Ichinose took out the phone from the waterproof case. Is it her again? Just one look at it gave her a headache. Who? Kurosawa Hikaru noticed her helplessness. Miss Igarashi. Yuki Ichinose glanced at his phone, then took it back and explained, that's the talent scout. I have clearly told her that you don't want to be a singer, but she still doesn't give up. Want to talk about it in person? Is it so difficult to handle? Should I accept it? Hikaru Kurosawa wondered how she would handle it. As for Miss Runa not giving up, he was not surprised. Because on the way to and from Fuji-Q Highland, Ms. Runa had made it very clear that she was very optimistic about the potential of the karaoke singer, and it was obvious that she would not give up so easily. I had no choice but to answer the call because the money hasn't been returned to her yet. Yuki Ichinose answered the call with one hand. Then, she put the phone to her ear and started talking. Hello. I am having lunch. He doesn't want to be a singer. I can't meet you either. How about even having contact information? I have to ask him first. Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't hear Igarashi Runa's words, but he could roughly guess the other party's attitude. Brother Guang, what should I do? She is very persistent and I can't refuse her. Immediately afterwards, Xiao Yuki pressed the microphone of the mobile phone with one hand and whispered. Ahem ah. Kurosawa thought for a moment, coughed twice, tried the sound, and then stretched out his hand to her. Seeing his strange movements, Ichinose Yuki looked suspiciously, but still gave him the phone. Hello. Kurosawa Hikaru spoke, but his voice became Hinata's. As soon as these words came out, Xiao Yuki's eyes widened and he was immediately confused. Brother Guang, is this too awesome? He even changed his voice and directly imitated Hinata's voice. Hello, I'm Runa Igarashi. This is my first time talking to you. Please give me some advice. Igarashi Runa, who was on the other end of the phone, was not impressed at all when he heard the voice. He did not recognize it as Kurosawa Hikaru, but only reported his origin. I'm Hinata Yamamoto, please give me some advice. Kurosawa Hikaru directly made up a pseudonym. Mr. Yamamoto? I wonder if Miss Ichinose has told you anything about me. I know, I'm talking to you, and there's only one thing I want to say, and that is that I don't want to be a singer. I wonder what the reason is. Do you not want to show up? Or do you think there is no future as a singer? Both. That's right, have you ever heard of Fujiwara Rika? Heard about it? Kurosawa Hikaru has checked it out before, so it would be strange if he has no idea. She is my contracted artist. Although I am not a big celebrity, I am still somewhat famous in the industry. People call me Igarashi with vicious eyes. I believe that with your level and talent, as long as you sign a contract with me, I will work with the company to find suitable composers and lyricists for you, and by joining forces, we will be able to make you a tomorrow comparable to Rika Fujiwara. Star. Such persuasion is very tempting and shows strength and credibility. No, please don't disturb me again. However, Kurosawa's attitude was very cold. Putting aside whether he wants to be a singer or not, this matter must be stopped. If Ms. Runa were to follow and investigate and find out about his relationship with Xiao Yuki, it would be troublesome if Mr. Ninomiya knew about it. There are many choices in life, and among them, some choices will affect your whole life. Mr. Yamamoto, do you really not think about it? Igarashi Runa still did not give up persuading and digging. As an agent, she also shoulders the responsibility of scouting and recruiting, and cannot miss a talented young person. Don't think about it, that's it? I'll let Yuki give the money back to you later. That's just a small amount of money. Compared with that, I want to talk to you face to face. I wonder if I can give you a chance. If. No, I'm very busy, that's it, goodbye. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't wait for her to finish her words before he hung up the phone unilaterally. Done. Kurosawa Hikaru handed the phone to Xiaoyuki. What's wrong? As she took the phone, Kurosawa Hikaru noticed that her eyes and gaze changed back to her original voice, and asked. I just suddenly felt that brother Hikaru actually has such a side. Ichino's Yuki muttered a little guilty. It was okay at first, but at the end of the conversation, brother Guang's attitude was very cold and looked a bit scary. This was different from the gentle and considerate, mature, polite, gentlemanly brother Guang in her impression. Only then did she suddenly realize that she knew too little about brother Guang. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 66. That's to reject her. If you don't do this, things will be difficult to handle. Seeing her looking a little scared, Kurosawa explained. Why is it so difficult? If I find time to return the money to her, won't it be solved? Yuki Ichino's didn't realize how serious this was, but just found it a bit annoying. A career like a talent scout is very difficult. Kurosawa paused and said. There's no way he can say that he knows Miss Runa, and has personally heard that Miss Runa plans to follow Xiaoyuki, right? Then what should I do? Ichino's Yuki didn't have any idea about talent scouts. Realizing that he felt that the matter must be dealt with seriously, he asked. See if she calls again. If she still pesters you, please contact me. Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while and realized that Miss Runa might not give up so easily, so he warned. He always felt that even if he expressed his stance in person, Miss Runa would not give up so easily. If he wanted to make Ms. Runa give up, I'm afraid he would have to meet at least a few times before he could give up, but the problem was that he couldn't meet her. If Ms. Runa knew that he was the god of karaoke, I don't know what kind of super development would happen. Good. Yuki Ichino's nodded. Ah, it's her again. At this moment, the prelude of Little Love Song sounded again. Hang up, and then contact her again when you want to give her the money. Kurosawa glanced at her and said. It was impossible to meet today under any circumstances. After all, he and Xiaoyuki were still dating at the beach. Yuki Ichino's was very obedient and hung up the phone directly. Xiaoyuki, am I really that good at singing? As she hung up the phone, Kurosawa Hikaru realized how difficult and persistent Ms. Runa was, and felt depressed. He really didn't expect that his entry-level singing voice could be so powerful that he directly attracted the manager of a popular star. It's not just good. At the karaoke bar that day, we felt like we were watching a concert. After eating the cake and no longer suffering from hypoglycemia, you seem to have entered a certain state, like a big star. In response, Ichino's Yuki nodded without thinking, recalling the past with a face full of wonder and joy. This is really not a joke. Brother Guang's singing level is so high that even the singers she has attended concerts before are far inferior to him. She can tell there is a gap just by hearing it. She has also watched the videos that have been posted on the internet in the past 2 days. What's more, it was recorded with a mobile phone instead of professional equipment, so it didn't fully restore Brother Guang's level. Is this so? Kurosawa Hikaru was not happy to see her face filled with wonder. Because the stronger his singing skills are, the more Miss Runa wants him. What's wrong? Isn't it a good thing to sing well? Why are you not happy at all? Ichino's Yuki found that her praise did not attract positive feedback, and she was a little confused and depressed. Did you say something wrong? I'm very happy, but I think there is no future as a singer. Kurosawa Hikaru noticed her depression and explained. Actually, Brother Guang, you can really give it a try. I think with your looks and singing skills, you can become a big star in no time. Seeing that he had such thoughts, Ichino's Yuki couldn't help but said after thinking about it. This is her sincere words. To be honest, she kind of wants to see Brother Guang take the stage and let everyone see his strength. Let's talk about it later. Today we came to the beach to play and eat. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't want to say more on this topic. Sensing that he might have some concerns, Yuki Ichino's thought for a moment, didn't ask any more questions, and immersed himself in eating fried noodles. Although it was not a big meal, just fried noodles, she still ate happily. How strong are entry-level skills? Kurosawa Hikaru was lost in thought as he ate fried noodles with a fork. He found that he seemed to have underestimated the concept of entry-level. If you think about it carefully, he has an entry-level singing voice. Not only has he learned to sing, but he has also changed his voice. Although he didn't have much practice, he knew very well that even if he wanted to imitate a female voice, even a clip sound or a baby voice, it would be easy. Just like just now, he could easily become Hinata's voice, just listen to it once. Entry-level skills are the height and pinnacle that normal people can achieve after decades of hard work, or even a lifetime. At this moment, the system's sound rang. Hearing this voice, Kurosawa Hikaru felt that it had been a long time coming. Because the recent activities of the system are displayed directly in text without making any sound. So fierce? Then my kick skills are very strong, right? Taking this opportunity, Kurosawa Hikaru realized something and quickly communicated with it in his heart. Hand-to-hand combat also requires physical strength. It can only be said that under the premise of the same magnitude, the host's leg skills can sweep away mortals. How strong is the master level? Kurosawa Hikaru thought of the only proficient level archery he possessed. It is the height that a person with talent can achieve if he puts in a lifetime of hard work. Is there any level above master level? Having a little idea of his own archery level, Kurosawa Hikaru asked curiously. Perfect level, the limit that humans can achieve. For example, if I have perfect running skills, my ultimate limit is to be on the same level as Usain Bolt. Maybe even stronger, he may not be the limit of human beings. I see. After hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru finally had an idea of the rating system. The system's reward was already very scary for him. Through this, he understood how strong his entry-level singing voice was. This is the height that a normal person can reach after 10 or 20 years, or even a lifetime, without considering talent. By the way, what achievements are there? Is there a list? Kurosawa Hikaru asked a question that he thought was very critical. The activation conditions of the achievements are hidden. Please explore and act as much as you can. The system's answer was very calm. Okay. Kurosawa Hikaru realized that it was a pity that there was no list and conditions. Brother Hikaru. Just as he was communicating with the system and thinking, Ichino's Yuki suddenly shouted. What's wrong? Kurosawa Hikaru raised his head and responded. Then, Yuki stretched out her beautiful right hand with manicure and wiped the corner of his mouth with her index finger. After this wipe, there was more sauce on the center of her finger. This is the sauce that got on the corner of Kurosawa Hikaru's mouth while he was thinking and eating. Immediately, Ichino's Yuki put her index finger into her mouth. This action was very intimate, and there was no rejection, which made people feel moved. Seeing this scene, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly laughed. The rewards of the system: if I get it, I'm lucky; if I lose it, I'm dead. Let's not talk about the rewards for now, just the function of the system being able to detect that others want to date is life-changing for him. If it weren't for this function, he might have accompanied Xiaoyuki to karaoke once, but there would not be a second time, and there would not be today's beach date. The emergence of the system changed some of his ideas. He was no longer simply obsessed with his studies and looking to the future, but living in the present. What are you thinking about? It's all on the corner of your mouth. Seeing that he was not unhappy, Ichino's Yuki also grinned, with white teeth neatly arranged. Very beautiful. 2 more to send. Thanks to How can I die before my dream comes true, for 3,000 Kidian coins, and 1,666 book coins from the bookstore, Yushi. Thank you for your rewards, and I also ask for recommendation tickets, monthly tickets, investment, and follow-up reading. The new book period really needs this support. The better the results and the more feedback, the more motivated the author will be to write, and the book can go further, become longer and better. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 67. At 2 p.m., the two of them came to the beach again. But the difference was that they were fully armed this time, holding a surfboard, and put their mobile phones in the locker. They had no personal belongings on them, only the locker's handcard. How should I play this? The sea water was over her calves, and Ichino's Yuki was a little confused holding the rented surfboard, feeling at a loss. I'll show you once, and I'll teach you slowly later. Kurosawa Hikari held the surfboard, feeling like he had a weapon in his hand, and turned his head and said, "Yeah." Kurosawa Yuki nodded when he learned that he had to perform first. As a paradise for surfers, Onjuku Beach has many people playing. Unlike competitions, because it is played at the beach, it is difficult to see the level of skills. It's like if you can swim, you don't care how well others can swim, as long as you can. Kurosawa Hikari held the surfboard and entered the sea, heading for the distance. Keep moving forward. The first wave came, Kurosawa Hikari ignored it, but used the board to cross it. Because the wave was too close to the coast, even if it rushed, it couldn't rush up. Is it too far? Ichino's Yuki stood on the shore and found that Brother Guan was swimming farther and farther, and suddenly she was a little worried. Although she didn't rush over the waves, it was very dangerous to be so far away from the shore. The distance she saw was at least 100 meters, because Brother Guang's figure was getting smaller and smaller. After swimming a long way, Kurosawa Guang held the surfboard and stayed and rested in the sea. There were some people near him, floating on the sea with surfboards, also waiting for waves. A wave came, Kurosawa Guang didn't ride the wave, but turned around, facing the coast, looking at the sea in the distance. Some people have already ridden this wave and started surfing. It's so cool. Some people cheered. Surfing is a very enjoyable thing, and the experience is very wonderful. Kurosawa Guan climbed up the board and stood up, looking at the sea in the distance, and then swam again. The entry-level skills are terrible, allowing him to have the skills and experience that ordinary people would have to spend decades of hard work to have at this age. Some people spend their entire lives doing one thing to the best of their ability, which is a very rare thing. You have to know that everyone's energy and time are limited. Whether it is surfing, singing, or even cooking, no matter what field, being able to devote decades of hard work is already a great craftsman spirit. Surfing is not a sport for the rich. If you surf on the sea, you only need to learn the corresponding skills to have a lot of fun. Kurosawa Hikaru went towards the sea. He didn't know how far away from the shore he was. He only knew that there were no surfers near him. The sea was very violent, and the waves came one after another, explaining what it meant to have one wave after another. However, Kurosawa Hikaru never rode the waves and still stood on the board looking at the sea, waiting. The big wave is coming. After waiting for a long time, Kurosawa Hikaru finally saw the head wave he wanted. Seeing this, he bent down and lay on the board, and began to paddle away. If you want to learn surfing, there is a necessary prerequisite, that is, you can swim. If you can't swim, then surfing is no less than a suicide act. After all, beginners are not sure to succeed in surfing, and they may be overturned by the waves at any time. The waves surged, with a strong and terrible impact. Kurosawa Hikaru adjusted the angle of the surfboard and was pushed to the coast. This wave was very big, and it was getting higher and higher with the impact. This was a big wave. Kurosawa Hikaru was pushed higher and higher, more than 2 meters high, or even 3 meters high. Woo! Kurosawa Hikaru was not panicked at all in the face of this unprecedented experience, but felt refreshed. He didn't surf the waves, but because of the permanent entry skills his body and brain had learned to surf a long time ago, and he had experienced it countless times. Being pushed to the coast, when the waves rose to more than 3 meters high, the head wave collapsed, and white waves began to emerge. It was like a firecracker was lit, starting from the head and exploding, and the whole body was affected, and the waves spread. Hwalala! The deafening sound of the waves was getting closer and closer. Boom! The waves were surging under his feet, and the waves were sweeping and collapsing nearby, pushing the terrifying power. At the last critical moment, Kurosawa Mitsuru stepped on the waves. Standing on the surfboard under his feet, more than 2 meters above the sea breeze was surging, and Kurosawa Mitsuru could see the coast very clearly, and he even had a feeling of ascending to the sky. It's so cool. The surfboard under his feet was constantly pushing and accelerating. This experience was like an electric current that broke out from the soles of his feet and spread to his whole body, and goosebumps appeared. After looking at the beautiful figure on the coast, Kurosawa Mitsuru no longer hesitated, stepped on the wave board to adjust the angle, and cut the waves away. The next moment, he entered under the waves. Rumble! The deafening sound of the waves exploded in his ears, and the waves swept over his head, ready to drown at any time. However, when the waves were about to hit, Kurosawa Hikaru would cut across for a while, then spin on the seesaw and return under the waves again. Surfing to pursue the most enjoyable experience and the fastest speed, you must go against the waves. Only in this way, the impact is the strongest. More than 200 meters from the shore, Kurosawa Hikaru finally started surfing, just like riding a rocket, very fast. As the waves continued to advance, more than 100 meters away, the people waiting for the waves saw this big wave, and the sharp-eyed people also saw the figure under the waves. Under the waves, there was a figure that seemed to be dancing on the edge of death, passing under the waves and walking with the big waves. Wow! Seeing him stepping on the waves again and again, and circling again and again from the waves, the skilled, smooth, and clean fancy moves immediately shocked many surfers. For a while, these people ignored the hard-won big waves, and stared at the figure intently. The technique was too strong, skillful, and agile, as if he controlled the sea. The shock that figure brought to them was no less than watching the videos of the world's top surfers on the internet. It was a scene that made people's blood boil. The waves kept hitting the coast, and Kurosawa Hikaru rode the waves. As he got closer and closer, he cut across and waved at the coast. So strong. On the coast, Ichinose Yuki covered her mouth with one hand and held the surfboard with the other hand, looking at the figure waving at her with shock. I have to say that she was really impressed by his handsomeness and even more so by his excitement. Her heart kept beating, as if there was an alarm clock in her chest. In fact, she had expected that Brother Guang said that he was at the entry level, which was actually very powerful, but she didn't expect it to be so powerful. Obviously, the sea is a vast and boundless stage. Everyone who enters it will become inconspicuous and become a member. But at this moment, Brother Guang, who was riding the waves, became the protagonist of this stage. The unique feeling of leading the whole audience was amazing. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 68. As we get closer and closer to the coast, more and more people are aware of Kurosawa Hikaru's existence. After all, nearly half of the people who come to Onjuku Beach specifically come for surfing. Not only are they experienced and skilled, but they are also willing to learn. But whether you are an outsider or an insider, you can see at a glance how powerful he is when seeing the figure on the waves. A wave swept horizontally. Because of the surf, Kurosawa Hikaru rode the wave. When he returned to the coast, he was already far away from the starting point. Ta 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 ta. Holding the surfboard and stepping on the wet sand, Kurosawa walked forward step by step, smoothing his hair back with one hand. It's so cool. Is this surfing? Kurosawa Hikaru was in a very excited mood, his body was trembling slightly, still immersed in the afterglow of just now. In just a few minutes of surfing, he felt an unprecedented sense of excitement. Different from the excitement of a roller coaster or a haunted house, this is an experience gained through technology and experience. It is more enjoyable than playing the piano in a restaurant. When he walked onto the shore, he glanced sideways and saw a beautiful figure running towards him not far away. That was Ichino's Yuki. She was running with her surfboard in her arms, as if she couldn't wait to be by his side as soon as possible. Seeing this scene, even though Kurosawa Hikaru had spent a lot of energy surfing this time and was panting a little, he still walked towards her. 100 meters apart, the two people quickly came together as they rushed towards each other. Brother Guang, are you too powerful? Yuki Ichino's ran up to Kurosawa Hikaru, with unconcealable joy and admiration on her face, and her body jumping up and down. The more she spends time with Brother Guang, the more she realizes that Brother Guang is simply a treasure. The more you get to know him, the more you realize how powerful he is. Want to learn? Seeing her extremely adoring expression, Kurosawa's vanity was satisfied. He held her shoulder with one hand and stopped her from jumping. This girl is well developed, with a plump and hot figure. Although she is wearing a swimming skirt instead of a bikini, he doesn't want others to see her bouncing and trembling like this. Perhaps because of his surfing, he became the center of attention. Since he stepped ashore, many people have been watching him. Although Ichino's Yuki has never learned surfing and was not very interested in surfing, after watching this demonstration, she really wants to learn. I'll teach you slowly later. Kurosawa Hikari was satisfied to see that she had finally ignited her passion. Brother, please don't shoot me. At this moment, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly turned his head to look at a man more than 10 meters away and said loudly. Sorry. The man who wanted to take a photo of him and post it to the surfer community realized he didn't like being filmed, put away his phone, nodded and bowed, and apologized profusely. Little handsome boy, do you know how to surf? Can you teach us? At this moment, a big sister with a hot and sexy figure, mature and beautiful appearance walked over. This royal sister is the blonde beauty I met when I was buying water in the morning. Not just her, but 3 women. Although they added their contact information and agreed to meet up next time, they couldn't help it when they saw Kurosawa Hikaru's surfing figure. No, Brother Guang wants to teach me. Yuki Ichino's, who was waiting on the sun lounger in the morning, saw them and had no chance to stop them at the time. But this time in person, he immediately became unhappy and directly reached out and hugged Kurosawa Hikaru's arm to express his sovereignty. Sorry. Seeing her protective and jealous look, Kurosawa felt a little cute, and immediately turned his head to signal to the 4 elder sisters. Although he didn't say much, his attitude was very obvious. You see, I really don't have time. The blonde beauty glanced at Yuki Ichino's, then looked back at the sisters, and could only leave in a sensible manner, without continuing to pester, so as not to leave a bad impression on the handsome boy. After all, she could make another appointment next time. Slightly. As they turned to leave, Ichino's Yuki held Kurosawa Hikari's arm without letting go, sticking out her tongue at their backs and making a face, a little disgusted with them. These bad women had chatted up Brother Guang in the morning, and now they were trying to steal Brother Guang from her in front of her. How bad? At this moment, several more men came over. Brother, you are very good at surfing. Can you teach me how to surf? I can give you money. A boy of about 12 or 13 years old, holding a surfboard, raised his head and looked at Kurosawa Hikaru with some admiration. This big brother is much better than the coach he found. That surfing posture is so handsome that if he can learn it, it will not be easy to pick up girls in the future. This little brother, are you interested in joining our surfing club? We can provide you with the most professional equipment, help you arrange events, and include transportation and salary. There was also a middle-aged man with a beard, tan skin, who looked very strong and wore sunglasses. His words were kind, but his attitude was serious. Although the wave this time was not a very ferocious wave, he could see it at a glance. This guy is extremely powerful, even stronger than him, a club coach who has been surfing for more than 20 years. She is so young, but has such strength. If she is trained, she will be famous in the surfing world in no time. Thank you for your appreciation, but I don't plan to join the surfing club or participate in any competitions, and I don't want to be someone else's coach, I just want to teach her. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head, first rejected the invitation, then shook his head at the boy, and patted Ichi-nose Yuki's right shoulder with one hand. Hearing this, Ichi-nose Yuki raised her head with some emotion and joy. One lesson is 10,000. No, 20,000. The boy saw Ichi-nose Yuki's beautiful face and the strawberry mark on her shoulder, gritted his teeth, and decided to pay a lot of money to buy a lesson. If he could learn the skills of this big brother, he could pick up a beautiful girl of this level, which would be worth it. He likes surfing very much, but what he likes more is to learn surfing and become the focus on the beach, picking up all kinds of beauties. Thank you for your kindness, I still have to date her, bye. Kurosawa Hikaru was unmoved by this, just holding Ichi-nose Yuki's shoulders with one hand and forcibly walked out of the encirclement with her. Sorry. After being carried away, Ichi-nose Yuki turned around and smiled at the two people, but there was no apology in her smile, which was extremely sweet. A hero can't resist the temptation of beauty. The coach couldn't help but sigh when he saw that Kurosawa Hikaru had no intention of looking back. It's a pity that such a young man with extraordinary talent was tripped by a woman. 30,000. The boy was even more envious when he saw Ichi-nose Yuki's sweet smile, and shouted a higher price. Big brother is not short of money. If you want to learn surfing, go to the big brother next to you. Kurosawa Hikaru waved his hand without looking back, not interested in it. If it was the old him, he might be tempted by such a well-paid job. But now, money is no longer the most important pursuit for him. Singing praises to youth and enjoying the present are what he has to consider. Asking for recommendation votes and follow-up reading, collection, comment, and reward, these are very important to me, please. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 69. After Kurosawa Hikaru demonstrated once, Yuki's passion to learn surfing was aroused. The afternoon became very relaxing. Unlike swimming, the process of learning surfing is relatively easy, after all, you can lie on the surfboard. The atmosphere of hand-in-hand teaching is also very good. Because Yuki is lying on the surfboard, her figure is slim and beautiful, and her legs are long. Kurosawa Hikaru is teaching and admiring beside her, which is quite enjoyable. Brother Hikaru, am I paddling like this? Yuki Ichi-nose was very enthusiastic in learning, and her slender arm slid in the water, and she also asked. Yes, you did a good job. After practicing for a while, I will teach you to stand up and try to surf a few waves today. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded. Although you can't continue to surf, the class is also very interesting. Unlike teaching people to read, teaching people to surf is much more interesting. In terms of sports, Yuki has good physical strength, good body coordination, and strong flexibility, probably because of fitness. After more than an hour, all the basic surfing skills were mastered. You have a good physical foundation. Although Kurosawa Hikaru had never taught anyone, he didn't know whether this was fast or slow, but he still praised. When praising others, you can't praise them forcefully, you must praise them cleverly, according to the timing and occasion. Because I usually exercise, and I also practice yoga and swimming, Ichino's Yuki was praised by him, and she was a little happy and explained. You also practice yoga? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised, this was something he had never heard of before. To maintain your figure. No wonder you have such a good figure and it's so easy to bend your waist. Kurosawa Hikaru took a look at her waist. I have to say that Yuki's waist is really beautiful. Just that waist can convince countless men. Brother Hikaru's figure is really good. This is the result of long-term accumulation. Ichino's Yuki was very happy to be praised, her eyes narrowed into a line, and she smiled. Although she was often praised for her good figure at school, she didn't feel anything. But now, because she was practicing a certain sport, she felt that it was the result of her hard work. When Guang Ji praised her, and she was very satisfied. By the way, Guang Ji, which gym do you go to? Suddenly, Ichino's Yuki remembered something and asked. If possible, she also wanted to go to the gym with Guang Ji, so that they could spend more time together. I don't go to the gym, I always practice at home. However, although she had a good idea, Kurosawa Hikaru could not do as she wished. Have you practiced like this at home? What's wrong? Do you want to go to the gym I usually go to? If there are equipment, it will be better to practice. There are too many people in the gym. When I exercise, I like to stay alone and quietly. Okay, Ichino's Yuki felt sorry for his refusal, but did not force it. Okay, the basic skills are almost learned, it's time to try surfing. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was a little unhappy and said immediately. Yeah. Realizing that she could start surfing, Yuki Ichino's nodded, and her attention was immediately attracted. After practicing for more than an hour, although it was short, it was time to test the results. Not long after, they moved to a new location. So close. Yuki Ichino's looked back at the shore, a little surprised. This place is at most about 50 meters from the shore, which is obviously different from the distance of at least 200 meters away from Brother Guang. You are still a beginner. Do you want to ride the waves so soon? Try to ride the waves first. Seeing that she wanted to run before she learned to walk, Kurosawa Guang was a little amused and teased. Hee. Yuki Ichino's was stunned for a moment, realizing that she was a little too ambitious, so she smiled to cover up her guilty conscience. Not long after, there were waves. Wow! Paddling away and riding the waves, although she did not stand up, but kept lying on the board, Yuki Ichino's was still very excited. This is a completely different experience compared to swimming. It took more than half an hour to paddle and find waves, and ride the waves. When Yuki Ichino's succeeded in stand-up surfing, she was already full of joy and a sense of accomplishment. After she learned to surf, Kurosawa Hikari also accompanied her. Although it was not a big wave, it was all relatively small waves, but it was still fun. During this period, because they were too tired, they went back to the shore to buy a watermelon, played the game of hitting watermelons, and ate to quench their thirst. Until the twilight of dusk, the beach was illuminated, and the two went ashore together. I'm so tired, but so cool. After Yuki Ichino's went ashore, she put the surfboard on the ground and waved her hands. She felt exhausted, which was much more tiring than swimming in the morning. That's good. Seeing that she was playing very hard, Kurosawa Hikari was also satisfied. Brother Hikari, what are we going to do next? After stretching her body, Yuki Ichino's asked curiously. Go take a shower, pack up and go back to Tokyo. So early. Ichino's Yuki was shocked when she realized she had to go back to Tokyo. It's almost dusk, It's already 6 o'clock, is it still early? Although Kurosawa Hikaru didn't have a cell phone with him, he looked at the sun and knew the time. It's really late. After learning that it was 6 o'clock, Yuki Ichino's thought about the time to return to Tokyo and nodded. Let's go take a shower first, and then go eat something after returning to Tokyo. Seeing that she was still not satisfied and didn't want the date to end, Kurosawa Hikaru also comforted her. Okay, Yuki Ichino's immediately became energetic when she learned that they were going to have dinner together. She originally thought that they would separate after returning to Tokyo, but there was still a dinner, which meant that it was not over yet. Holding the surfboard, the two first went to the locker to get their phones, and then went to the store to return the surfboard to the store, and then went to the bath again. After swimming in the sea, if you don't take a bath, you will feel very uncomfortable and sticky. Not long after, they put on clean clothes from the morning. Are you leaving? About to leave this beach, Yuki Ichino's looked back at the coast, a little reluctant. She never thought that playing at the beach would be such a happy thing. When she was a child, she went to the beach with her parents and had a lot of fun, but not as much as now. Not enough fun. Kurosawa Hikari asked when she saw that she was lingering. Very fun, but I think it's so fun to go to the beach with Hikari. Ichino's Yuki shook her head and sighed. Me too, it's fun to go with you. Will we come again in the future? I will. Kurosawa Hikari saw that she wanted to come again, thought about it and nodded. He didn't know what the dating task location of the system would be like. But even if there was no dating task, if he had time, he would like to come again, with Yuki. By then, they don't need to consider the issue of teaching, but come together to surf and have fun. Yeah. Hearing this promise, Ichino's Yuki was immediately satisfied. Next time you come, don't forget the surfing you learned today. Kurosawa Hikari looked at her smiling face and teased. Do I look so forgetful in Guang's eyes? Because you look pretty stupid. No way. Ichino's Yuki stamped her feet, grumbled, and ran after him, hugging his arm very naturally. Kurosawa Hikaru tilted his head slightly, and seeing her movements, he just smiled and said nothing more. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 70. Back in Tokyo, it was already 8 p.m. They gathered in Shinjuku and got off the train there at night. Originally, Kurosawa Hikaru wanted to take her to have a big dinner, but Xiao Yuki stopped at the door and refused to go in. After going around in circles, Ichino's Yuki held Kurosawa Hikari's arm and walked around, finally stopping in front of a Japanese food store. Shall we eat this one? Okay. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't know much about Shinjuku, so he nodded when he saw that she wanted to come to the store. You don't like Western food? After walking into the store and sitting down, looking at the menu board, Kurosawa Hikaru ordered a rice bowl. When he saw Xiao Yuki choosing curry rice, he asked. I rarely eat it and it's very troublesome to eat. Yuki Ichino sat on the chair and nodded. That's true, Kurosawa Hikaru agreed. Asian people's eating habits are relatively similar, but completely different from Western style. Dinner was served quickly. After eating for a while, Yuki Ichino suddenly said that she had to go to the toilet, stood up and walked away. However, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her and didn't go to the toilet at all, but just went to pay the bill. When she came back and sat down to continue eating, Kurosawa had a smile on his face. Aren't you going to the toilet? Not going. Did you choose this store because you wanted to pay for it? It's not good to keep asking you to pay. When his little thoughts were revealed, Ichino's Yuki was not afraid to admit it and responded without raising his head. It wasn't that she hated Western food, it was just that the store looked very expensive. She didn't want Brother Guang to spend money and wanted to pay the bill. When we were at the beach today, whether it was a swimming ring, lunch, or a surfboard, Brother Guang paid for everything. It's okay if you want to pay, But are you sure you won't go hungry? Kurosawa asked, seeing that she felt guilty. When they first met, he knew that Xiaoyuki spent a lot of money to buy a line account with 11 college boyfriends from Akari Tsumuji Kirika, the female Sea King. Running out. How could it be? You didn't ask for the appearance fee before, so you still have a lot left. Sure. I'm sure, I won't be hungry. That's fine. Kurosawa nodded and didn't ask any more questions. By the way, there are 20 boyfriends besides me in Tsumuji's account. How did you deal with them? Suddenly he remembered something and asked curiously. Xiaoyuki bought not only him, but 20 boyfriends. Although his relationship with Xiaoyuki has not yet been determined to be boyfriend and girlfriend. Actually, I resold that account again for 30,000 yuan. When asked about this, Ichino's Yuki suddenly smiled proudly and pointed 3 fingers. Why is there such a market for this kind of account? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little depressed. Although the price was not high, several times lower than the previous price of 110,000, he found it strangest that someone would buy it. That's 20 ready-made college boyfriends. But don't they know that the original owner of that account is Tsumuji Kirika Akari? Can they accept a sudden change of girlfriend? Then it's out of my control, and the buyer can figure it out by himself. Really? Brother Guang, are you still thinking about her? After saying this, Yuki Ichino suddenly thought of something and asked a little suspiciously. How is that possible? I just care a little about how you deal with those 20 boyfriends. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head. That's not my boyfriend. Didn't you just buy the account and inherit 21 boyfriends? I only contacted you at that time and ignored others. Is there still such a thing? Because when I bought the account and communicated, the account owner sent your photo, and your information is also the strongest. After all, it is Dongda. Yuki Ichino nodded and explained. In fact, the reason why she endured the pain and spent a lot of money to buy the account was because the photo of Kurosawa Hikaru was so handsome, and he was from Tokyo University. After dinner, they went to the subway station. Bye-bye. When the subway arrived, Ichino's Yuki was a little reluctant to leave, but she still waved goodbye to Kurosawa Hikaru and walked in. Bye-bye, I'll take you home. However, Kurosawa Hikaru walked into the subway one step at a time and said, Why? When Yuki Ichino entered the subway, she didn't expect him to do this and was a little surprised. I'm worried about you going home so late alone. Kurosawa's answer was natural. Xiaoyuki is so beautiful, and the security in Neon is not good. If anything happens to Xiaoyuki on his way home so late, he will regret for the rest of his life not to send her to his doorstep. Ichino's Yuki smiled when he heard this, feeling full of security. The subway is very busy at night, but since it is not a rush hour, there are still many seats. The two found an empty space and sat down next to each other. Within a few minutes, Xiaoyuki hugged Kurosawa Hikaru's arm and fell asleep on his shoulder. She woke up early in the morning waiting for news, played all day long, and stayed up until now. Plus Brother Guang was by her side, she was really sleepy. Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at her sweet sleeping face and smiled. Not long after, Kurosawa Hikaru waited for Xiaoyuki to go to the station and shook her awake. The two of them got off the subway together and started walking. Don't think about going home alone so late in the future, understand? Kurosawa Hikari said as he held her up with his arm and looked at her way home, where there were few lights and dark places everywhere. If Yuki was targeted by bad guys on this way home, it would be over. Got it, sir, I will report to you when I get home next time. Because she had slept for a while on the subway, Ichino's Yuki was even more sleepy. Hearing this, she saluted with spirits and then left. After a while, they arrived in front of a house. Brother Hikari, I'm home. I had a lot of fun today. Ichino's Yuki held his arm and looked at the house in front of her. Although her eyelids hurt a little and she was very tired, she still smiled. Me too, Kurosawa Hikari smiled. Mua. Suddenly, Ichinose Yuki stood on tiptoe and kissed Kurosawa Hikari on the face. Bye, and text me when you get home. She ran away after kissing him, as if she had done something bad. She opened the iron gate and pushed him in, waving goodbye. Why are you running so fast? I won't hit you. Kurosawa Hikaru was speechless when he saw her running away. Remember to send a message. Ichinose Yuki opened the door with the key and turned her head to remind him again. Remember, sir, go back to sleep quickly. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded. Be careful on the road. Ichinose Yuki was also sleepy, and she said reluctantly again, and then closed the door. As she closed the door, Kurosawa Hikaru was completely relieved, so he turned around and walked along the way he came. Walking along the road, he soon came to the front of the road. I have to walk again after taking the subway, so I'll take a taxi. Kurosawa Hikaru, carrying a shoulder bag, looked at the roads on both sides, and murmured. He did it as he thought, and he began to look at the vehicles on the road, intending to stop a taxi. Although it was a bit expensive, he took the bus home directly after playing all day and was exhausted. Not long after, he returned home. I'm home. Putting the bag on the ground, Kurosawa Hikaru took out his mobile phone and sent a message. Received. Take a shower and go to bed, good night. Good night. It's over. Kurosawa Hikaru put down his mobile phone and breathed a sigh of relief. The third date ended successfully. It should be available in 2 weeks. I will update more after it is available. Please support me, vote for me, and read it.